Okay. First thing first. So this is these are the attendance passports for today. Uh, Please take a moment to take attendance when the system allows you to do so. Uh, in the meantime, I'm going to try writing a couple of things before. Okay. Uh, okay. Let's see. Does the password work? Okay, good. Okay. Those of you who are online, I mean, who are Moodle, I mean Zoom, I take it that the password, hopefully the password works for you as well. Um, okay, good. Okay, here's the plan for, here's more or less the plan for today. So, okay, so we started talking about moral philosophy on last Thursday. Okay, hold on. We started talking about moral philosophy last Thursday, when we were talking about Hume. Today we are going to we're going to talk about the other moral philosopher that is, important in the Western moral tradition, and who is usually contradicted. I mean, who is usually opposed to Hume, and that is Kant, Immanuel Kant. The plan, the plan is that I'll kind of give the plan for today is to give you a brief sketch of Kant, of what Kant is about, and then I'm going to have us, watch. I'm going to have us watch one episode of The Good Place. The Good Place. I don't know how many of you have seen the series. It's basically an interesting show about a bunch of people who have died and gone to the good place. The good place is presumably heaven. I say presumably because it gets more complicated, but for the sake of brevity, we'll just assume that the good place is more or less heaven. And one of the people who have died was a philosophy professor when he was alive. And so in the good place, he continues to give philosophy lessons, and then they encounter all kinds of ethical conundrums in the good place, which actually sounds really strange. I mean, why would you encounter ethical conundrums in heaven? But that's another problem. Let's not worry about that. Okay, so if everything goes according to plan, I will talk for, we will talk about this stuff for maybe 20 minutes or so, and then we'll watch one episode of Good Place, and then I will probably ask you one or two questions about that episode, break you up to do that. Okay, so when so right now the lesson, I mean this class is being live streamed on YouTube. When we watch that episode on the of the Good Place, I need to stop. I want to stop live streaming because because I don't want to have copyrighted video on YouTube. Hopefully I'll remember, and I think I will. But just try one of you guys try to maybe if you can remember, try to remind me to stop the live stream before I play the episode of Good Place, so I don't end up infringing on copyright or anything like that. Okay. So Hunt, it's actually very interesting. We are talking about infringing on copyright at the same time as we're talking about Hunt, because one could argue that infringing on copyright is a kind of stealing, and Hunt, as you will see, is quite against stealing. Okay. So to briefly recap, on Thursday, right? On Thursday, we were talking about Hume, David Hume, and the idea of moral sentiment, and the idea that morality has to be based on feelings or sentiment, because according to Hume, you can't base morality on anything else because feeling is the only thing that can move people to action. Feeling is the only thing that can get anybody to do anything. Okay. But we also see that there are some shortcomings. There are some shortcomings or flaws of basing morality on feeling. One thing is that one problem is that, well, if you base morality on feeling, and everybody feels the same way about something which happens to be evil or wrong, then that means that as a morality is just based, you have no independent way of judging what's good and what's wrong other than your feelings. So if everybody feels that serial killing other people is the right thing to do, then serial killing would be right. So it seems that basing morality on feeling, it could lead to a kind of relativism. Then morals become relative to people's feelings. The other problem is that feelings are kind of feelings. They're subjective, and they're also kind of unreliable because they change from moment to moment, right? I might feel like doing something right now, but I might not feel like doing the same thing next 5 minutes later. So if you base morality on feeling, in other words, if your only way to get people to do the right things is to appeal to their feelings, then then you are at the mercy of their feelings. Because if their feelings changes, then you won't be able to get anybody to do the right thing. And very often our feelings can also lead us in all kinds of bad directions, right? So, for example, if my family member commits a crime, or does something really wrong, I might feel sympathy for him, and I might cover up for him. Okay, so generally you could argue that generally it's wrong to cover up for somebody's crime, for cover up for something that's really wrong. So if you base morality on fellow feeling or on sympathy, that's really unreliable, because people can be led by fellow feeling or sympathy to do things that are wrong. So that's where Kant steps into the picture. So Kant basically says, look, because of all these reasons, you cannot base morality on feeling. You got to base morality on something more reliable and more substantial than feeling. And what else can you base morality on? Reason. So Kant says, look, if you want morality, if you want us to be moral people, moral beings, the only way to base morality on something more reliable is to base it on reason. Okay, how? Well, I'll give you the short version first. The short version is that in order for in order for morality to be based on reason, it must be based on a law. And this law is called the moral law. Moral law is, is a law that the moral law is a very special law. It's not a law. It's not like a traffic law or tax laws. Those are laws that are imposed on you by the government, by some external, by some external being. Moral law is a special law because it is a being that all humans should recognize just because they are rational. It is a law that you and I and everybody else should recognize just because we are rational beings. And once you recognize the law, then you will freely follow the law, you will freely follow the moral law, and you will freely impose it on yourself as something. So there's a certain paradox here. Kant believes that you only become fully free when you follow this law that you impose on yourself. So you become free by imposing a law on yourself. Why? Okay, the short version of this is that you become free by imposing a law on yourself because the law is a law that you recognize to be right of your own volition. And by imposing a law on yourself, you choose to follow a law. You choose to follow the law rather than follow your desires or your feelings. And remember that your desires, feelings and desires are kind of fickle, right? They can change from one moment to the next. So if you're always just following your feelings and your desires, then you are kind of a slave to your feelings and your desires. Whereas if you follow a law that you recognize as binding upon yourself and other people, then you will achieve freedom from your desires and your feelings. You will no longer be chained to your desires and your feelings. And that's great. So that's more or less the short version. That's more or less the short version of where Kant is coming from. Kant happens to be one of the few philosophers that I can actually remember his birth and death date. So I'm going to write it down here as well. So Immanuel Kant lived from 1724 to 1804. Yeah. So he lived, to 80 years old. I actually wrote my MA thesis on Kant, so I actually remember quite a few things about him. He was he spent all of his life in Königsberg, which is at that time it was part of Prussia, but I think right now it's part of Russia. So he spent all of his life in Königsberg and became he became a professor at the University of Königsberg. He's known to have a very highly regulated and disciplined life. The story is that he would go to the walk every day at exactly 4 p.m. And so all the housewives of Königsberg could set their clocks just by looking at what time he sets out for his walks. So, which is not so surprising, right? Because he believes in the moral law. So even his personal life is a very law-like. He lives a very law-like existence. That's some interesting details, or maybe not so interesting details about Kant's life. The story also is that he never married. There are some mean-spirited people who said that he died a virgin, but how would they know? But anyway, he never married. The story also was that he was a very nice person to talk to. I mean, he was a great, he's very well versed in all kinds of things. So he would have people over. He would have guests over at his place for dinner many days of the week. So maybe he made up for not being married by having lots of friends. Okay, so what else do I know about him? I don't remember. Okay, maybe that's all. Okay. So Immanuel Kant. Let's see what else. Okay, yeah. So let's get back to this whole thing. So the big picture, right? The big picture is that Kant believes that morality has to be based on reason. It has, or more specifically, to base morality on reason is to base it on a law. base it on the moral law. So, and it kind of makes sense, right? Because if you do science, the reason why science is so reliable is because there are all these laws of science, right? There are laws of physics, laws of chemistry that we have discovered to try to explain everything around us. So if you want morality to be reliable as well, you got to give it the same kind of how to say it, the same kind of power as science. And the way to go about doing that is to give it a certain law-like structure. So again, and that's why Kant believes that in order to really be moral, we need to follow this thing called the moral law. Okay, but the next question is so we have to follow the moral law, but what exactly does the moral law demand of us? Well, to make a long story short, the moral law communicates its demands to us through duty, through a series of duties. Okay, so a duty, Kant famously said that acting from duty is I'm kind of paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact way he put it, but it's something like this. Acting from duty is the necessitation of the will. So to say that your will, your mind or will is being necessitated by something, it's kind of it's kind of like a fancy way of saying that your mind is being determined or is being ordered to do something by by duty. Now, Kant basically says that if you are a perfectly rational being, like if you are God or if you are some kind of angel, you wouldn't need to really follow duty because if you are God or if you are an angel, your actions will already be in perfect accordance with moral law. You won't need duty to remind you about what to do. Unfortunately, since we are not perfectly rational, like we have feelings and desires and all that, so we need a series of duties to tell us what to do. And that's why we are being necessitated by duty. Now, how do we know what our duties are? And the answer is Kant has this thing. He has this thing called the universalizability test, which you can use to tell you what your duties are. And then the universalizability test will give you it will give rise to what is called a categorical imperative. So an imperative is basically a comment, a comment of moral law. To say that something is categorical, right? When I say something is categorical, it really means that something applies to you no matter what. And the idea is that the comment of the moral law applies to you regardless of what your situation is right now, regardless of your desires, regardless of your feelings. Okay, so what is the universality test? So basically, Kant says, the simplest version of the universality test is if you're going to do something, before you do something, you got to ask yourself, is my action universalizable? If I imagine a universe in which everybody is doing what I'm doing, would that be a problem? Okay, so let me give you an example. So suppose I am broke. I don't have. Suppose I'm low of money, and I need money. But suppose suppose I decide that the only way to get money is to borrow money from somebody. But if I borrow money from somebody, well, I have to I have to promise to pay back the money. Okay. But I'm not confident that I'll be able to pay back the money within a certain time. But the thing about borrowing money is that usually if you're asking for a loan, you won't get the loan unless you promise to pay back, right? So I decide that okay, I'm going to make a promise that I cannot keep. So I'm going to ask Say for money. So I say, look, I'm broke right now. Can you loan me $200, and I'll pay you back in 2 weeks. So the truth, right? So the truth is that I really, I'm very broke. I don't have a job, let's say, and I really have no way that I have no way of being sure that I can pay him back in 2 weeks. But I make the promise anyway, and then he lends me the money. Now, is this the right thing to do? So Kant would say, imagine this. Imagine a universe in which everybody just makes promises whenever it's convenient for them to do so, even if they cannot keep the promise. So basically, you're making a lying promise, right? You're making a promise that you probably have no intention of keeping. So why is it wrong to make a lying promise? Let me take a picture of this first. Okay, but keep this question in mind. Why is it wrong to make a lying promise? Hold on a second. Okay, why is it wrong to make a lying promise? Well, here's why. So, imagine that everybody in the universe, just makes promises that they cannot keep. So, if everybody in the universe were to just make promises all the time that they cannot keep, what would happen to the idea of a promise? It would be dwindled. What? It would be dwindled. Dwindled, yes. And Kant is even more strict than that. He says that not only will the idea of a promise be dwindled, it will come to be meaningless. If everybody, see, the thing is that the whole point of the promise, right? The whole idea of a promise is that it is something that is supposed to be honored, to be kept. So if everybody were to make a lying promise, like everybody, so if the lying promise were to become a universal practice, then basically the line will basically destroy the very idea of a promise. It will lead to the line would destroy the very idea of a promise if everybody were to, if it were to become a universal practice. Very soon there'll be no promises left. So the idea of a lying promise, according to Kant, involves a contradiction. And according to Kant, making a lying promise is a contradiction in conception. Why? Because you cannot even, you cannot even conceive of the concept. You cannot even conceive of a lying promise in your mind without destroying the very idea of a promise. So there's a contradiction in the very conception of a promise, in the very concept of a lying promise. Yeah, let me try this again. There is a contradiction in the very concept of a lying promise. So the idea is this. The idea is that so this is a universality test because you're asking yourself what would happen in a universe in which everybody is doing that exact same thing. So in a universe in which everybody is making a lying promise, the idea of a promise will just cease to exist. It will be destroyed. And so it's wrong to make a lying promise because it leads to a contradiction in conception. It leads to a contradiction, right? So and so Kant, so this is quite interesting because what Kant is doing is that he's saying that if you have taken a class in logic, you will know that contradicting yourself is the worst thing that you can do in logic, right? So he's basically trying to make moral philosophy. He's trying to turn morality into a logical system. He's saying that look, I'm going to show you. I can show you why lying is not just wrong, It's not just wrong because you learn it in school or you learn it from your parents. It's wrong. Lying is wrong because it commits some very basic logical contradiction. And this is why. Yeah, this is why. Uh, so it is wrong to lie, not just because you learn, not just because your religion says so, or your parents say so, or your teacher says so. It is wrong to lie because if you lie, you're committing a contradiction. Just like in mathematics, right? If you say 2 plus 2 equals 5, you're kind of committing a contradiction. Or if you say that something in logic, if you say that something is P and not P, you're also committing a contradiction. So lying is that kind of wrong. So what that means is that if you disobey the moral law, if you lie, or if you do something, do anything that fails the moral law or fails the universality test, not only are you a bad person, you're also an irrational and illogical person. So you can, according to Kant, if you buy all of this, if you accept all of this, according to Kant, being immoral is not just, it's not just bad. It's actually, it's actually very bad. It's really bad because being immoral is actually being irrational, being illogical. Being immoral is like saying 2 plus 2 equals 5, or saying, P and not P. So if you consider yourself to be a rational being, then you should not be immoral. You should not break promises. So there's a certain, I hope you can see that there's a certain beauty, there's a certain elegance to quantum system, right? It's basically trying to, I don't want to say reduce, but I can't think of a better word. It's basically trying to reduce morality to a kind of logical and almost mathematical system. He's saying that, just like if you cannot be a logical being if you believe that 2 plus 2 equals 5, you also cannot be a logical being if you believe that it's okay to make a life promise. Okay, so I did promise you that I would basically only talk about this part of Kant. So we'll probably talk more about Kant on Thursday because there's more to be said. But for right now, I want to get into the good place.